Before the likes of Elon Musk, Mark Zuckerberg, Bill Gates, Warren Buffett, and Jeff Bezos, we had John D. Rockefeller. In case you are wondering who this is, well, I must admit, that's a bit strange because who doesn't know who Rockefeller is? The man, John D. Rockefeller, was the first billionaire in America.
God bless America.
And that's not even the best part. This man had so much money that he would easily make it to the list of the richest men in the world today.
Show me the money!
Judging by how wealthy he was. 6 generations later, many of his descendants are still billionaires, largely because of his success. He was once asked, how much money is enough? At that time, he was already the richest man on earth. But still, he immediately replied, just a little bit more. Now the question is, how did Rockefeller make so much money that he became the first billionaire in the US at a time when money was hard to come by? Back when, the average American earned only $3,300 per year, not like today, where Silicon Valley is floating with billionaires. John Davison Rockefeller was born on July 8, 1839, to William Avery Rockefeller and Eliza Davison in Richford, New York. His father was a traveling salesman and con artist, and his mother was a religious woman who taught John about hard work and managing finances. As a little boy, John loved mathematics and would often spend his time practicing arithmetics. What he didn't know was that his love for numbers would benefit him later in life. He wasn't born into a wealthy family, so he probably didn't know he was going to become rich. Even if he had dreamt of being rich, at the time, nobody had risen to billionaire status, so John couldn't even imagine being one. When he was around 14 years of age, his family moved to Cleveland, Ohio, and he quickly began working for nearby farmers. But he hated the amount of physical labor required, so he quit the job. Rockefeller then went on to attend Folsom's Mercantile College, where he studied penmanship, bookkeeping practices, and transactions. He graduated in 1855 and started looking for bookkeeping jobs around the city of Cleveland. America back then was much different from now, but even then, jobs were hard to find. And after several failed attempts at securing a job, he finally got hired as an assistant bookkeeper at a merchant company, Hewitt and Tuttle, earning only 50 cents per day. I like to believe that what he learned during his time as a bookkeeper at Hewitt and Tuttle helped shape him into the kind of businessman he eventually turned out to be. Rockefeller wasn't the type of man to splash money on unnecessary things. Without a doubt, he was a wealthy man, but he lived a very modest life. In 1859, he left the company and decided to start his own business. With the money he saved while working at Hewitt and Tuttle and a loan from his father, he partnered with businessman Maurice B. Clark. Together, they invested $4,000, which at the time was a decent amount of money, to start Clark and Rockefeller, a merchant company that specialized in selling commodities. The American Civil War was particularly kind to the company, as they made significant profits selling grains, meats, and hay to the federal government. But Rockefeller wasn't satisfied. He was the type of businessman who was always looking for opportunities to expand and make more profits, especially since the Civil War was slowly coming to an end. In today's world, we can compare him to someone like Mexican billionaire Carlos Slim Helú, who has hands in numerous industries. Around the time Edwin Drake, who struck oil in August 1859, and the Seneca Oil Company drilled the first oil well in nearby Titusville, Pennsylvania. Soon enough, This was the beginning of the monopolistic strategy that quickly catapulted him to become one of the wealthiest men in modern history. Rockefeller began buying out his competitors, giving them a portion of Standard Oil that was comparable to the value of their firm. Within the first 3 months of 1872, in what later became known as the Cleveland Conquest or the Cleveland Massacre, he bought out, shut down, or bankrupted 22 of his 26 Cleveland competitors. His excuse was that he was buying out refineries that were losing money due to their outdated equipment. However, as journalists later pointed out, the refineries were losing money because of Standard Oil's monopoly. Standard Oil was so massive that it could negotiate agreements with railroads to cut transportation costs, making it extremely difficult for other refineries to compete. Other oil and railroad tycoons proposed a deal to fix transportation costs called the Southern Improvement Company, but the public outcry was so great that they quickly stopped further negotiations. He was a master negotiator, and many of his competitors approached him in secret to make deals with him. By the late 1880s, Standard Oil controlled 90% of American refineries. In 1882, they created a network of Standard Oil companies throughout the country, led by a board of trustees, where Rockefeller owned over 1/3 of the certificates. Rockefeller had become an oil tycoon and one of the wealthiest men in the U.S. Standard Oil, however, became even more aggressive in its business approach, and this would ultimately lead to the downfall of the company's monopoly. Rockefeller even had a strict no talking to the press rule, but this did nothing to prevent the bad press the company was getting, especially from journalist Ida Tarbell. Soon, politicians got involved, and Ohio Senator John Sherman in 1890 proposed an antitrust act to put an end to the monopolies that were taking over various industries. The Sherman Antitrust Act was signed into law in July 1890, allowing the federal government to get involved in business by breaking up trusts that were taking over industries and putting competitors out of business. The government ordered Standard Oil to be dissolved, and it broke up into 34 independent companies. However, the firms still worked together, and many still retained the Standard Oil name, followed by the state they were located in. The original Standard Oil Company remained in Ohio, where it had started. Rockefeller would then go on to retire from daily operations in 1895 at the age of 56. But he stayed on as a figurehead president. Although the Standard Oil Company had been dissolved, John D. Rockefeller still continued to make huge profits. The demand for oil witnessed a resurgence when automobiles began hitting the roads, especially after Henry Ford made the Model T affordable to the middle class. In 1916, John D. Rockefeller was announced as the world's first billionaire through newspaper headlines. As a young adult, his goal was to make $100,000 and live to be 100 years old. While he surpassed his financial goal, John D. Rockefeller died on May 23, 1937, at the age of 98. Thanks for sticking with me till the end. Kindly like this video and subscribe to the channel for more. I'll see you in my next video. Until then, stay safe.